And so you mentioned that. So I know in your world record race in 92, you had done like 13 and then like 12 steps, I think, after what, hurdle
Yes,
three
let me
or
tell you
so,
what
right?
happened. I figured this happened. We had the race in Stockholm prior to that, and it was a race in which, Sam was the man. Sam had just won world championships in Tokyo the year
Yeah, yeah,
before.
yeah.
He ran at Zurich here. He ran 47:10 in that
Yep.
race. Shut it down. Blew my mind. Um, so of course in '92, we're all, season start. Everybody's kind of get a feel from one another. I never forget. It was a race in Stockholm, and I was testing out this new strategy. Me and John Smith got together because I was always having this problems trying to, once the energy beginning of the race got started, I would just run up on the hurdle. It started way back in '86. And at the time I would acquiesce and just back off the hurdle and just chop and go 13. And then I realized, now I need to figure this out. So I realized not going out as fast to the first hurdle, try to get there 6 seconds or better, right? Or faster. But 6 seconds was as I need to get there.
Yeah.
And then going obviously 13 for hurdles two and three. And then it was to go 12 for four and five. And I remember that sweet spot between the fourth hurdle and the say the sixth hurdle, from four to five and then five to six, going 12 there. I remember in that race, I had put about 8 meters on Sam between the fourth hurdle, maybe say 4 meters there,
That's
cushion, and
big.
then another 4 meters
That's
cushion
big.
after the fifth hurdle. And then I carried that for six, seven, into seven. And of course, so the real estate started to get shortened up as we got around the track. But it was enough to hold him off. And for me to know that I had enough at the end in my tank after the 10 hurdle to, to keep him at bay at least
Yeah.
6 to 8 meters. So that went on that happened at Stockholm. And I knew we were going for it. And I was like, oh, okay. Had another race, did the same pattern. It was successful again. And it was kind of like I knew what I needed to do, and I kind of had everybody else's number because no one really did kind of figure out how they needed to run the race. I was very satisfied on what my race pattern would be. And as I got an opportunity to do it more often, and then go back home and even practice it even more, my mindset was locked in. I was like, okay, and it was a good thing. Um, But it was a hard thing to be disciplined with it because typically happens when you get in those international races and you get on these great tracks and the adrenaline is there. It is so easy for you to do anything and everything that's counter to what got you there. And we see it all the time. So that was the hardest part was to be in the moment and lock into it and don't deviate from it. And it was hard to do, but it was the best thing it was and the crazy thing is it was the lesson that I learned from '88
Mhm.
because like I said in '88 I had no particular pattern whatsoever. I think I won 12 for the first five hurdles in
Ooh,
in 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 Seoul. I'm
wow.
alternating the whole time with a I'm alternating, and the crazy thing is even in '88 I psyched myself out because I had a hamstring injury prior to that. It healed up, but I'm telling you when I got warming up on the practice track in Seoul, I developed a knot in my hamstring, and when I finished the race in the final, the knot went from like this, and I swear, as soon as I crossed the finish line, it opened up. And I remember walking around the track going, "Where did this knot go?" I mean, and I realized I stressed myself out. And then that's when I was like, "Yo, you got to treat the Olympic Games like a track meet. You got to treat it like, I mean, you want to go there and you're going to show up and run fast, but you want to lock in, do what you have to do, and don't deviate from what got you there."
Yeah.
And I wasn't thinking in '88, but in '92 came around. I said, I know what I need to do. Even if I were to hit a hurdle, I had a rebound and a cushion, knowing that okay, just stick with the plan, stay in my lane, and don't do anything crazy to get DQ'd. And like I said, and then another thing happens when you get in those situations is where you gotta pay attention to what's going on around you. Sam got DQ'd in his semifinal round.
That's
He had a traveling
true.
ball.
That is true.
So, oh, we've got to reverse that even further before the USA Championships. Danny Harris got hit with a drug violation.
Oh
So
yes,
he,
92. Yeah.
so in May, I mean, so psychologically, I'm thinking Matete, Danny Harris, Pat McGee, of course, Farmer Patrick. I mean, Dave, yeah, Dave, those guys. I'm thinking of the usual suspects in the race, but as the season was going on, Danny gets suspended, and I'm like, okay, all right, I got to worry about Danny. Then, of course, I said, my Sam gets disqualified. So going into the final, it was Winthrop, who's always been a headache, collegially,
He's
all
a gamer. He's been
international,
he's
Pan Am
been
game, always been a headache. So the respect with Winthrop has always been there, and same thing with Dave Patrick. Um, so you could never, I would never ever count those guys out. But I know Winter was always a wild card. Oh my God. He was like Sam. He would show up. He would show up and you'd be like, damn, where did he come from? But it became a race between Winthrop at that time, Winthrop and myself. And I didn't look at it that I had to beat Winthrop. I just knew I just had to be around Winthrop. I just needed to
Mm,
be somewhere. Like I said, at that point in time, it became not necessarily, I wasn't going for a record. I knew I may have had it in me, but the key was getting a medal. That
yeah.
was it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be in the right position because you play it safe. You think you're playing it safe in the earlier rounds. And like I said, I a lot of little nuances were happening to me during the course of the race. And I remember, I mean, we got 3 rounds in the hurdles. The first round, I go out. It felt like I was jogging at one point of the race. I go 11 steps again for the second time in my life at one of the hurdles, but I don't know it. It just happens. And I remember coming home after the 300 meters in the semis, and if to me it felt like I was running, conservatively, but then like I jogged from 300 meters to the finish line, just kind of, easing up, knowing that I got
Yeah.
another race. And the crazy thing is, I remember I ran 48:76. And I remember running as fast as I did. And I remember looking up at the clock and I remember scratching my head or doing something like this, going, damn. And I saw myself mumbling those words on the jumbotron, right? I was like, damn. So I walk away. And then the second round, and
Winthrop is you ran with Winthrop in
when,
that.
yeah, and think about it. I ran the first round, I ran 48:76. I'm not sure that wasn't my PR, but then the second round, Winthrop goes out there and Winthrop runs 47:62.
Yeah. And
I
y'all
ran
right there.
47:63,
Yeah.
right? We come off, like I said, I never count Winthrop out. We come off the eighth hurdle. My long stride is coming off the eighth hurdle. He's turning it over. We're going hurdle to hurdle, hurdle. I was step to pace to pace, right next to each other. And I never forget, he's not giving up an inch. I'm not giving up an inch because this is winter, right? And I'm going, I never forget this. We're running, and I'm going in my head, I'm like, we're in the semifinals. We're going to the finals. And
Y'all
I,
both
I
good.
literally felt like, okay, why am I struggling trying to beat this dude? I'm struggling trying to, I'm trying to outlane him. And at the split. I just said, forget about it. Let me just cross the tape with him. He crosses the tape. Yeah, and like I said, he runs 47:62.
62,
I
yep.
run 63. I PR'd. That was the fastest I've ever raced since 88.
Oh yeah, when you ran
I
47.
ran 47:85 to win my NCAA championship in 80. No, 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 no. I think I ran 48:90 at nationals at LSU that year.
Oh
No,
yeah.
LSU was 87. I ran 47:85 at Eugene,
Okay.
Oregon.
Gotcha,
I ran
gotcha. Okay.
47:85. Um, But in 88, when I took third place at the trials in 88, I ran 47:72. So that was my PR back in 88.
Okay. Hmm.
I never ran that fast again until that semifinal race with Winston. I run 47:63. I go from 72 to 63. And then And I'm like in my head, I'm kind of I'm confused. I'm all over the place. I'm like, damn, I got a PR. I said, but I know I didn't really push myself. And then I'm asking myself, but I did push myself because Winthrop had me running hard, you know? And I said, okay, all right, get it together. And then that's when in my mind it was like, okay, you got this far. Do not deviate. Because then Sam, and because a lot of, like I said, a lot of stuff was happening. I get a PR, Sam gets DQ'd, so everything, and I'm like, we got a rest day, then we got the final. The rest day happens, like Quincy wins the gold medal
Hmm.
on my rest day. He goes out and sets the Olympic record and all that, right? And so like going back to my point was you just okay, I got here. All these things have happened to my competitors. You just need to stay in your lane, stay focused, and finish the race without anything crazy. And and it was so hard because I remember when I got started in the race, I wanted to go 12 steps so bad between prior to before 4 and 5. I wanted to go 12 at the third hurdle, but that wasn't the game plan, right? So I remember clearing the hurdle, and I remember running to the fourth hurdle. And I took it with my right leg, which is my less dominant leg, and my arm is all over the place. It's like I'm all twisted up top. But the beauty of it is, I get back down onto the track. You know, as a hurdler or someone who coaches hurdles, the first thing the coach is always going to say, get your butt back down to the track because that's where you get back into your critical arm swing. And a lot of times, we do so much going over the hurdles, twisting our bodies and not being focused or squaring our shoulders up. And I never forget when I saw that. I remember seeing the camera angle. I twist up so bad jumping over the hurdle with my right leg, my right leg. But like I said, I got back onto the track and to get back into my cadence. So I was just comfortable running. So of course my stride got longer because it goes from 12 back to 13, which is, it's a more controlled, obviously a more controlled step pattern for me, dominant step pattern. And I'm on my dominant leg, so it's I'm getting back, I can get back down onto the track a lot faster. And that was the case. And then I remember coming home after the seventh hurdle, that last 150, when I got to the eighth hurdle, I'll never forget this, when I got to the eighth hurdle, I was expecting Winthrop to be there because he was at the eighth hurdle 2 days ago. He was there, right? So in my head, I'm like, I can get through this turn, but I know I got to deal with Winthrop coming off the damn eighth hurdle. And I'll never forget when I got to the, I realized I had that 6, 7, 8 meter cushion from with the strides. And I remember when I got to the eighth hurdle, he wasn't there. I didn't hear him. Like I typically, you hear, you feel that energy of your competitor. He wasn't there. And I got to the ground. And as I ran between hurdles, I knew he was going to be coming, but I had opened up enough
Yeah.
real estate between them. And I remember like the last 75 meters, or nah, because I cleared the hurdles at 40 meters between, I say 35 meters. I remember clipping the hurdle, hitting it, right? And I was glad that I hit it with my dominant leg and knocked it
Yeah.
over, kept the
Oof.
momentum going in
Hmm.
that direction. When I landed and as I was approaching, I was like, I'm about to win. I'm in my head, I'm about to win the Olympic gold medal. And I remember just running, obviously running, smiling, throwing my hand up. Um, and the record was there. And that was like obviously the icing or the cherry on the top of the sundae was hearing the guy announce my world record. And I was like, wow, it was just such uh,
Yeah.
a, a finishing moment. And it was like it was like I said, my roommate won the gold medal, Olympic record the day before. I got a chance to look at it and hold it. And then when it was my time to race, I remember talking to Q man. And we had wrote on the walls in the room and all that. And he was like, "Yeah, you just got to go out there and do it." And I remember when I was interviewing, we was just discussing it. I was like, "Damn, it's not like I wanted to outshine you, but I was like, damn, my roommate just did all this. What are my own personal expectations?" And he just said, "Just go out there and do what you have to do." I mean, he said, "Just go out there and execute like we train."
Mm,
And and it really, and I said, okay, if he said do it, just stay locked in, just stay locked in. Don't, you've been here before.
uh,
And Quincy won the gold like on the third or the 4th of August. John Smith's birthday was on August 5th. I set the world record on August 6th.